Welcome to Secret Story. It was Thursday afternoon. My wife thought I was out of town on a business trip when actually I had been in town all week putting the final touches on my plan. I was sitting in my car, parked 2 doors up the street, waiting that I called the number and confirmed the precise time of her arrival. 3:30 p.m. was the agreed upon time. That was 30 minutes from now. I needed that time to complete my portion of the plan. Then I will be done. I opened my laptop and logged into the home security system I had installed a month ago. There were hidden cameras in every room and the backyard pool area. My phone buzzed with a message, 15 minutes. My text, park up the street and wait till you see me leave. Then proceed to the backyard through the side gate. It will be unlocked. I looked at the scene on my screen. Cheryl was riding Raymond. My heart broke once again. There was no doubt now. I knew my plan had to be executed. My phone buzzed again. I am at his house, ready to move. My text, wait till I text you, then go. I got a thumbs up response that I zoomed in on the video on the screen. It was a good picture, so I took a screenshot and another. I pulled up the screenshot and saw it was clear. I shot a picture of the screen, cropped it, and saved it on my phone. I closed my laptop and called my mom. Hi, Mom, something has come up, and Cheryl can't pick up the kids. Can you get them? Please take them home to your house. And I will be by before dinner to pick them up. Mom agreed, asking if everything was okay. I said, yes, trying to keep my voice upbeat. We hung up, and I moved into the next part of the plan. I walked to my house and entered through the side garage door. I was as quiet as a cat burglar slipping into the main house, through the kitchen, and up the stairs. I pulled down the attic stairs and brought down 3 large cases. I moved into the bedroom and packed all my clothes. I put my suits in 3 suit bags and used a duffel for my shoes. When I finished packing, my side of the walk-in closet was empty, and my dresser drawers were all partly open and empty. Cheryl would panic when she walked in and saw all my clothes. Toiletries, and other items were gone. Then I went to my boys' room and packed up their clothes, some toys, and their iPads. I gathered a few pictures of our family and our wedding picture. As upset as I was about what Cheryl had done to us, I was not the type to destroy memories. They were good and should be preserved. I went into my office and emptied my safe, taking the cash, securities, prenuptial agreement, passport, and a few other documents. I made a copy of the prenup and slipped it into a large white envelope. I added $25,000 in cash, my wedding ring, and the signet ring Cheryl gave me last year for our anniversary. I printed off the 2-page letter I wrote to her and the picture of Cheryl. I signed the letter, put it in the envelope, and sealed it. I took a few other items, stuffing them in the duffel as I went through the house. I stopped in the kitchen. I looked out and saw Cheryl on her knees. I gagged as my heart broke once again, and I almost vomited right then. I took out my phone, zoomed in, and took a few pictures and a short video. It was disgusting. I laid the thick white envelope on the counter with the picture on top next to an empty wine bottle that they had finished. Beside it, I lay my cell phone, the one I had had for years. I got a new one, and Cheryl did not have the number. I made my way out of the house through the garage, making 2 trips to get everything. I carried it all up the street and put it in my SUV. Just as I finished, I saw her car pull up, and she waved. I waved back and gave her the thumbs up. Her part in the plan was about to be played. As I got in my SUV, I saw her walk past me, dressed in a striking pantsuit. She looked at me and nodded. I sent a text, go. The plan was in motion. Cheryl and her lover's worlds were about to implode. I slowly drove off. As I reached the corner, I stopped. I saw Julia and walking briskly back out to her car. A minute later, I saw Cheryl run out dressed in a short robe. She yelled something and then ran back into the house. Then Raymond came out of the house, walking quickly toward me to his car. Parked a few doors down the street. I pulled away and turned the corner before he could see me. Raymond had no idea what was waiting for him at home. Alice was there with the process server, ready to serve Raymond with her divorce papers and my $1 million lawsuit against him for alienation of affection, naming him in my divorce papers that I chuckled at the thought. To be a fly on the wall, boy, I drove to my new home, which I purchased 3 weeks ago when I put the plan in place. It was a new condominium. It is big with 4 bedrooms and everything I need. It is more of a cluster home all on one level with a common wall with my neighbor. That unit was still empty and up for sale. They both boarded the golf course at the country club. Our new home was near my kids' school, which was convenient. The boys would be living with me now, along with April, their new nanny, who was starting next week. She will be living in the 4th bedroom. She is a college student from Nebraska. She is 21 years old, getting her degree in childhood education. She is pretty, smart, and will be great for my kids. Our arrangement is for me to pay for her last 2 years of education and provide her with housing and food. I will pay her $1,000 a month for her use. I will also send $2,000 to her mother in Nebraska. They are a low-income family, and her father is terribly ill with COPD and cannot work. I had a designer friend decorate my new place and purchase all the furniture and kitchen necessities. She had done an excellent job. I gave her an open ticket, which was beautifully done, and the furnishings were perfect. That I brought in all of my clothes and put them away in the master bedroom. That I went to the other side of the house to my 2 boys' room and put their things away. They would be staying with me from now on since I would have full custody. There was a guest room and April's room on that side of the house. I painted April's room like she wanted and added a few pieces of furniture and a big TV on the wall. All the rooms had their own bathrooms, so there was privacy for everyone. Once I had toured the inside, I went out back to the patio area. There was a big in-ground hot tub and an outdoor kitchen with sunbeds and lounge chairs. It was warm outside, so I sat and looked out over the 14th green of the golf course. The scenery was beautiful. It was close to 5 p.m. when my phone rang. It was William Stone, my attorney. I knew things were exploding, and he was the firewall between Cheryl, Raymond, his wife Alice, and me. I answered, "William." Jesus Christ, Rick, what a shit storm. The phone is blowing up. Cheryl has called looking for you and asking questions about where the kids are. Raymond's wife has called and wants me to handle her divorce. I am sorry, William. But we knew this would happen. It's what we expected. Just stick with the plan, and it will all settle down. At 6 p.m., a private eye who has worked on this investigation will arrive at Cheryl's house, giving her a copy of all the video, photo, and audio evidence we have on her. He will deliver a second letter I wrote explaining the prenuptial agreement and referring her to you to answer any questions. He will also explain that I will not speak with her, and the kids are safe and with me. William, you are to do the dirty work and have her come in tomorrow and go over the divorce and prenup. She should bring an attorney with her. There is no negotiation. She will only get what is allowed in the agreement and 50% of the proceeds from the house sale, which goes on the market tomorrow. All of this will be explained in the second letter Cheryl will receive shortly. That I have purchased a burner phone for her to communicate with me. I read off the new number to William. Give her that number and not my new iPhone number. I will only accept text messages from her. Cheryl and I will set up times for her to talk to the boys and see them. I will not be on the phone or present when those things happen. I will never voluntarily speak with Cheryl ever again. William, she is dead to me. Okay, Rick, I understand. You are mad and disgusted. I think you will change your thoughts on some of this in the future. William, no, I never will. This woman has cheated on me with my former friend. She violated my trust and love. She has destroyed our family, and for that, she will never be forgiven. I will never never voluntarily speak to her again. Okay, I get it. William, I have to get the boys. Call me if anything happens. Okay, I hope you are okay. I am. I will talk to you later. I hung up and left to pick up my boys. It was going to be a tough night, one of many Raymond had given me today. I had just finished giving Raymond a send-off blow job and received his last gift suddenly. A woman in a pantsuit entered the yard through the side gate. It was normally locked, but for some reason, not today. She was a striking woman with a valise under her arm. She walked right up to the cabana, standing right in front of us. Looking down at me, she asked, "Are you Cheryl Marie Stone?" I looked up at her and then at Raymond, sitting up now. Then I looked back at her. I stood up in front of her. Yes. Yes, I am. She reached into her valise and handed me a large yellow envelope. She took a picture of me with her cell phone and said, "Cheryl Marie Stone, you have been served." She turned and walked away back through the gate. That I was shocked. My heart was pounding in my chest. I had a tough time breathing. I knew what being served meant. I ripped open the envelope and pulled out the thick pack of papers. The top page read complaint of divorce between plaintiff Richard James Stone and defendant Cheryl Marie Stone. What the fuck? I screamed, grabbing a robe, and running after her. As I rounded the side of the house, she was driving off. I ran back into the house, passing Raymond as he walked out without a word. I yelled at him, "Where are you going?" He said nothing, walking quickly to his car and driving off. I ran through the house to our bedroom. I stopped dead. The drawers in Rick's dresser were all open and empty. I looked in the closet, and all his clothes were gone. I fell to my knees and screamed, "Oh God, what have I done?" I fell over on the floor and sobbed uncontrollably. My body started to shake, and I peed myself, puddling on the floor. I knew my life was over. I arrived at Mom's. And she was waiting for me. She lived by herself since my dad passed away a couple of years ago. The kids were in the kitchen eating hot dogs and French fries. Mom looked at me, seeing I was not myself. She pulled me out of the room. "What is going on? Where is Cheryl?" I looked at her. There was no sense in avoiding reality. "Mom, Cheryl has been cheating on me. It has been going on for a long time, maybe 6 or 7 months. To make it worse, her lover is Raymond Lewis." The look on my mom's face was complete disbelief. Raymond was like a son to her and a brother to me. His family had lived down the street from us since I was 9 years old. We had been fast friends through high school. We went separate ways, with me going to the Marines and Raymond playing football at a small college and becoming an accountant. Life goes on. Raymond had lived in Colorado for many years, so we were never close again. I had heard he moved back to town about a year ago to help care for his ailing mom. Raymond had gotten a job at the same company Cheryl worked for, but in the accounting department. Cheryl had mentioned that she had met a man, and he asked if she was my wife. She said yes, and Raymond asked if she could tell him he was working at her company and wanted to reconnect. That night, she told me about Raymond and gave me his number. I called him, and we had lunch a few days later. It was good to see him and catch up. It was unlike old times, but we agreed to go out together soon. He had changed, and so had I. I had gotten married and had kids. Raymond was married but had no kids. We set a time in 2 weeks for us to go out for dinner. The night arrived, and Cheryl was more excited than I thought she should be, but I thought nothing of it. That we went to dinner, and I met Alice, Raymond's wife. She was a beautiful white woman. They had been together since college and finally got married just before they moved back home. They were living with Maria, Raymond's mom, in the house he grew up in. We had an enjoyable time and decided to go dancing. We went to a club that Cheryl and I had visited several times. They have a good house band and a large dance floor. We got a table toward the back, away from the dance floor, and I went to the bar for drinks. When I returned, Alice was at the table, but Raymond and my wife were off dancing. "Alice, why aren't you dancing with Raymond?" As soon as you left, Cheryl grabbed Raymond and pulled him onto the dance floor. "She told me to dance with you when you came back." "Well, okay, let's dance then." I held out my hand. Alice and I danced to several songs, and then we sat down. Cheryl and Raymond did not and were dancing to more songs. A slow song set began, and I finally saw them across the crowded dance floor. They were dancing much closer than they should have been. Cheryl had her head lying against his hard chest with her arms around his neck. I was not happy about how they were dancing, so I went to break in. I told Alice I would send Raymond back to her. She smiled and took a swallow of her drink. She didn't seem upset, so I wondered if this was normal that I approached them and saw Cheryl's eyes were closed. I tapped Raymond on the shoulder. "I'll take over now, Raymond. Alice wants to dance with you." They both were startled. I was there and quickly separated. I moved in and took Cheryl in my arms, seeing her look at Raymond with a dreaminess in her eyes. I noted that and would talk with her about it later. We danced a few dances and had a couple more drinks. And then I suggested, "Cheryl and I are heading home. It was good seeing you again and meeting Alice. We will have to do this again. Tell your mom hello for me." I stood and pulled Cheryl up from her seat, almost before she could say anything. Though she did get out, she had enjoyed the night and meeting everyone. We walked out of the club with Cheryl barking at me. That was very inconsiderate. "What has gotten into you?" I said nothing until we were in my SUV. I locked the doors and turned toward Cheryl. The expression on my face must have warned her. She shied away, looking out the window away from me. "What in the hell were you doing with Raymond? You were grinding, dry humping him on the dance floor. What were you thinking, or were you thinking at all? I don't believe this is the first time you have danced together. What the fuck is going on?" My voice was almost screaming at the end. Cheryl looked at me. Her eyes were sad. "It was nothing. We were just dancing. And no, we have not danced before. Tonight is the first time I have seen Raymond outside of work, and only once in a while when we bump into each other." "Jesus, what are you accusing me of?" I stuck to my position. "Cheryl, if you could have seen yourself. You looked like lovers dancing intimately with each other. When I broke in, your eyes were closed. When you opened them, there, filling your eyes, was that dreamy look you get when you are really turned on. You almost didn't recognize me at first, and it seemed like you would protest until you recognized it was me, your husband." Cheryl's face blushed beet red, and she could not speak. "Do I have anything to worry about?" She looked at me, and a tear ran down her cheek. "God no, I love you, Rick. It was nothing. We danced a few slow songs one after another, and I just felt comfortable in his arms. I just got carried away. I am sorry. It meant nothing. It will not happen again." "You're damn right it won't. There will be no more dancing with Raymond Lewis ever." I started the SUV, and we drove off. As we were leaving, I saw Raymond and Alice coming out of the club, and Alice was yelling at Raymond. It made me happy she was on him, too. Well, Alice thought your dancing was inappropriate, too. She is giving him hell. Cheryl looked out and saw Raymond getting chewed out by his wife. "Oh my, what did we start?" "I am sorry, Rick. There was nothing meant by it." The drive home was quiet. After I took the babysitter home, Cheryl was dressed very and tried to take me to bed, but I resisted, which I never did. "Not tonight, Cheryl, not tonight." My rejection crushed Cheryl, and she went off to bed. I slept in my recliner until the kids woke me at 6:30 a.m., wanting waffles for breakfast. The next day was a cool one in our house. I had an odd feeling that something was going on between them. It may only be flirting, but the more I thought about it, their dancing was too familiar to be their first time being together. There had to be more to this. That night, after dinner, we played a game of life with the boys. I watched Cheryl. She seemed more tense than usual and not as talkative as she normally is. Once we finished the game and got the boys to bed, I settled in the den with a glass of scotch. Cheryl came in with a glass of wine. She sat and looked at me. There was sadness on her face. She drank a swallow of wine, put it down, and turned toward me. "Rick, In all of our years together, I have never done anything like what I did last night. I cannot explain what happened. I am sorry I was so out of line and made you doubt me and my loyalty. I love you and only you. I want no one else, only you. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I swallowed a mouthful of scotch. I was processing what Cheryl had said. I somewhat believed her, but I had doubts about her and Raymond. I finally looked at Cheryl after 3 minutes of silence, which made her extremely nervous that I leaned forward and looked her in the eyes. I only have one question. Have you and Raymond ever been alone, just the two of you, anywhere at any time? I sat back and took another mouthful of scotch and waited. The length of time it took her to answer told me what I needed to know. Yes, they had. A minute passed. And Cheryl answered. Yes, twice, both times we went to lunch. The first time, we went with others, but because there were too many of us, we had to split up. Raymond pulled me to a separate table, and we sat by ourselves. The second time was just the two of us. Neither time did anything happen. We just had lunch and talked. I looked at her, doubting what Cheryl was saying. Nervous, Cheryl stated, Rick, I swear that it was just lunch and nothing more. I would say it was Raymond's idea that if we went out together, the four of us, he wanted to dance with me. I thought that would be okay, but obviously it wasn't. I stood up, looking down at Cheryl. You are my wife. If you want to continue to be my wife, you will never have lunch or any contact with Raymond Lewis outside of a mandatory work meeting, and then only when there are more than 3 people in attendance. Cheryl, this is not an option, it is a mandatory requirement. Do you understand? Cheryl stared at me, seeing the anger in my eyes. She nodded. Yes, I understand. It will never happen again. I walked out, stopping at the door, coming to bed. Oh God, what did I do? Raymond wanted to dance with me, so I went to the dance floor with him. I didn't think anything of it. We had been to lunch a couple of times, and it was all innocent, just eating lunch and talking. He told me about Rick and him when they were kids and what he had done after he went to college. I thought he was an interesting man, and I liked hearing about Rick's youth. Then last night we danced. I was comfortable with Raymond. He had been a gentleman every time I had been with him. So, when I asked him to dance, and Alice didn't object, we went to dance. We danced to several fast songs, and I could see he was a good dancer. Then, the slow song started. The first one, we danced apart, looking at each other. I was a little tired, so when the second song started, Raymond pulled me a little closer, and I laid my head against his chest. He was hard and muscular. I felt comfortable. I closed my eyes and let things flow. I was feeling really good and kind of forgot who I was dancing with. Raymond's hip pressed against me, and I must have pressed back against him, not thinking it was Raymond I was dancing with. I was beginning to get excited and turned on, so I snuggled against him. Then suddenly, we were separated, and I opened my eyes. I was confused as I looked at the man standing before me. Then I snapped out of my fog and saw Rick. He said something to Raymond and pulled me into his arms. That I looked into his eyes, and he was not happy. What had I done to upset him? I was confused. That we finished the dance, and when we returned to the table, Rick looked at me, Alice then Raymond. In a few minutes, Rick announced that we were leaving, and abruptly, he pulled me out the door. I was shocked at how rude he was and didn't understand it. That I in the parking lot, he pulled me along, and I told him he was rude. He said nothing, and we got in his SUV. He turned to me, lectured me, and accused me of doing things with Raymond. I was shocked. I had done nothing with Raymond, so why was I being accused of things? My head was spinning. Had I done something and not realized it? Was I really grinding on Raymond and holding him like a lover? Did I do that? My mind started to clear, and I thought back. I was holding Raymond with my arms around his neck. I was pressing against him. My head was lying against his chest, and his hands were holding my hips tight against him. Oh God. I had felt his hardness press against me, and I had started to grind against him. Okay, no, Rick was right, I was being bad. Oh God, now I understand why he was so angry that I sat quietly the whole ride home, trying to figure out why I danced that way with Raymond and how to fix it with Rick. When we got home, Rick took the babysitter home. When he returned, I had changed into a nightie. I tried to get Rick to go to bed with me, but he refused. Jesus, he never refused me before. I knew I was in deep trouble. Rick never went to bed with me that night. The boys found him asleep in his chair and made him make them waffles. Today was warm outside but ice cold inside the house and not from the air conditioning. We didn't talk all day. I was so nervous, not knowing what to say to Rick, so I decided to wait until he started the talk after dinner and a game with the kids. My heart was beating so fast, and I was so afraid that so here we are, a few minutes after the boys went to bed. After watching Rick all day and night, I decided I needed to start our conversation so I could beg his forgiveness. Rick, in all of our years together, I have never done anything like what I did last night. I cannot explain what happened. I am sorry I was so out of line and made you doubt me and my loyalty. I love you and only you. I want no one else, only you. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Then Rick attacked me with a mean question. Cheryl, have you and Raymond ever been alone, just the two of you, anywhere at any time? I was shocked at his question. Was he accusing me of doing something with Raymond? I was pissed now, but I knew I had to answer. The look on Rick's face changed the longer I went without answering. Yes, Rick, twice, but both times we just went to lunch, and it was nothing more than that. I didn't give any details, but there was nothing to tell. I mentioned that Rick had suggested we go out and go dancing sometime, then Rick stood up with a disgusted look on his face. He looked down at me and read me the act. Oh my God, Rick has forbidden me from even talking to Raymond. His words stung badly as he barked them out at me. You are my wife, and if you want to continue to be my wife, you will never have lunch or any contact with Raymond Lewis outside of a mandatory work meeting where there are more than 3 people. This is not an option, Cheryl. This is a mandatory requirement. Do you understand me? I was shaking when I looked at Rick, seeing an anger on his face I had never seen before. I quickly agreed, then, as if a switch were thrown, he stood and walked to the door, turned back, and asked me to come to bed with him. Shocked, I looked at him, then stood and followed him. The rest of the night was incredible. So, I guess that all was forgiven. The next 2 months were normal after that weekend. It was like nothing had ever happened. I heard nothing from Raymond, and when I asked Cheryl, she denied any contact that I didn't press the issue, and life moved on. The kids kept us busy, and my work took up more time. Cheryl and I were making love almost every night like before, so life was good again. Then, I was given a nice promotion to a high-level sales position. It paid a lot more money, but it required me to travel about 6 days a month. Usually, I was gone on the first and third weeks for 3 days at a time, leaving on Monday and returning on Thursday night. It was a drag and changed our family. When I came home on Thursday, I was usually worn out, but I did my best to make love to Cheryl once before I crashed. Then we would catch up over the weekend in the next 10 days, then do it all again. After a few months, we had a new routine and settled into it. It wasn't perfect, but we made it work. The summer was here, and the kids would stay with Cheryl's parents in Florida for a month. I had arranged to not travel during that month, and I took 2 weeks vacation so Cheryl and I could totally connect again. That I rented a cabin in the Smoky Mountains where it would be cool, beautiful, and secluded. I didn't tell Cheryl about my surprise. I was waiting to talk to her on our anniversary in 3 weeks. Things had been wonderful for a while now. Rick and I were like before, loving each other and our boys. Life was good. Rick had been promoted to a new position with much more money, but he had to travel some. I was proud of him. We figured it out and learned to make it work. At my company, 6 weeks ago, I was transferred to the accounting department as the senior PA for the department head. I told Rick I was moved into a new position with a small raise, but I didn't tell him the job was in the accounting department. That would have caused a major problem since Raymond worked in that department. Since I had been in my new position, I had not seen Raymond until last week, when I had to attend a department meeting. When the meeting broke, I was walking out of the room when I heard my name called. Cheryl. I turned. Standing behind me was Raymond. I knew I would see him sometime but avoided situations that might make that happen. When I saw him, my breath became instantly short, and my mouth filled with cotton. He looked good but had an odd look on his face that I smiled. "Hi Raymond, how are you?" He walked to me. I stepped back, and he stopped. "Is everything okay, Cheryl?" "Yes, I am fine, Raymond, but I have to go. Mr. Green has another meeting I have to attend with him." I needed to escape Raymond, so I walked toward the next meeting. "Oh, I am in that meeting too, so that we can walk together." He followed me. I was nervous as I remembered what Rick had said, no contact. But I thought, what was the harm if there were more than 3 people in the next meeting? We walked together, but I did not encourage conversation. Raymond touched my arm, and I jumped. He looked at me. "Cheryl, what is wrong?" I stopped, letting a few people pass. I looked at Raymond. His pleasant face had a slight smile on his lips. "Raymond, we cannot be together. Rick has forbidden it, and I cannot upset our life. It is wonderful now, after the rough time we had after that night out with you and Alice." The look on Raymond's face was concerned. "What happened? I wondered why you have avoided me, and we have not heard from you two since that night. I can't explain it now, but please stay away from me. I have to go, the meeting will be starting." I walked off, not waiting for Raymond to comment. The day ended after that meeting, and I quickly left for home, avoiding Raymond. I decided not to mention our talk to Rick. Raymond stayed away from me until he saw me enter the break room for lunch a week later. I was getting my lunch from the fridge when he approached me. "Hi, Cheryl. Can I sit with you?" I walked to a table without a word. Raymond followed, and we sat across from each other. Raymond reached out and touched my hand. "Are you okay?" I pulled my hand away and looked down at my container. I opened it and spread the salad dressing on the contents. I opened the crackers and took my first bite. Ignoring Raymond. "Cheryl, something happened." "What was it?" "Neither you nor Rick has spoken to me, and we have not heard a word since that night. It has been several months. I knew something had happened when you left so quickly that night. Alice was also pissed at our dancing so much and me not dancing with her. Is that what this is about?" I continued to eat but knew I had to answer his questions. "Raymond, I can't talk about it here. I owe you an explanation, so after work, can we meet for a few minutes, and I will try to explain it to you. It cannot be here, so it needs to be somewhere no one can see us." "Okay, I will leave and drive to Castle Park on the other side. There is a gazebo there we can sit in and talk. Can you meet me there?" "Will Rick be suspicious?" "No, he is out of town, and my kids are at Rick's mom's until I pick them up. I was going shopping, so I will skip that. I will meet you there." The rest of the day, I was a wreck. I had been harboring these strange feelings for Raymond since that night. I don't understand them, but I get extremely excited and wet when I am around him as I am right now. Rick has no idea. I am afraid of what he might do if he ever found out. At 5 p.m., I left the office and drove to the park Raymond had suggested. When I arrived, I saw him standing by the gazebo. I walked up to him, and he reached out, gripping my arm, and pulled me to him, hugging me. I pulled away from him. "No, Raymond, stop, or I will leave." I moved into the gazebo and sat on a bench. Raymond came in and sat beside me. I moved a few more feet away from him. I could not let him get close to me. I was weak, and he could have me if I weren't careful. "Cheryl, what is going on?" You are acting very strange around me. I looked at him, I could smell him, and that made me weaker still. Raymond, that night when we were dancing, we started to get way too comfortable. I laid my head against your chest, and as we danced, I started to press against you, and you pulled me against you as well. It was like we were lovers, and I liked it. Then Rick broke in, and when I opened my eyes, I was confused, seeing Rick there. I gathered myself, and Rick and I finished the dance. Raymond, I could see anger in Rick's eyes, but I was confused about why he was angry with me. Then he made us leave abruptly, and I thought that was rude, telling him so in the parking lot. He said nothing until we were in his SUV. Then he let me have it, screaming things about you and me. I was so shocked. I don't know what he said exactly, but the gist was that you and I had something going on. I denied everything, knowing I was on very thin ice. Then Rick asked if we had ever been together, just the two of us. I admitted we had but told him no details. I was ashamed, and he made me feel like I had done wrong. I started to cry. Tears ran down my cheeks. I covered my face and shook my head. Raymond moved close to me and pulled me into his arms. Cheryl, calm down. We have done nothing, and I do not understand why Rick is so threatened. Raymond pushed me away and looked into my eyes as tears trickled out. Then, for some wild reason, I leaned over and kissed Raymond softly on the lips. My whole body shuddered, and my breathing changed. I slid even closer as he took me in his arms, kissing me hard. I was suddenly very turned on and unable to control myself. I looked up at Raymond, able to get you out of my mind, and I could sleep. Suddenly, we were pawing at each other like teenagers on a first date.